During my business ventures, I've actually set up companies in 5 different countries, and we're going to talk about cheapest countries to open an international businesses. This video is specially made for those in Nigeria and someone who is based in a country with different restrictions. Before you start a business in another country, there's a lot of factors like taxes to consider. We're going to cover 4 lesser known countries, which might just be the perfect place for you to incorporate your next company. But if you do wish your taxes were lower, please smash that like button to support this video. Now, this is going to differ depending on your goal, but in this analysis, the focus is on retaining as much of the company's money within the company in order to grow the company. First, I want to use the most common options just as a baseline, that is the US and UK incorporations. First, a UK limited company. UK is currently ranked 8th in the world for ease of doing business, but from April 2023, UK corporation tax gets far less beneficial and a bit more complex. Before that, UK corporation tax was just 19%. But now, if your company makes a profit up to £50,000, it's still 19%. Profits between 50 and 250 are going to be a marginal rate of 26.5. And if your company profits are above 250, you're going to pay 25% on everything. So, using our standard tests, let's say you're $100,000 in profit, you'll see that in pounds here too. That's going to equate to a corporation tax rate of 21.82%. Company profits of $1 million, 0.205% corporation tax rate. If you're watching this and you actually want to register a company, don't just Google random agents. On Roladel, we have verified sellers who already do company registrations in different countries. You can talk directly to them, compare prices, and choose what works for you. Next, let's look at a US corporation. And this would generally be a corporation. The US is currently ranked 6th in the world in terms of ease of doing business. This is a touch different because US corporations will pay a federal corporation tax of 21% always, but depending on the state they're registered within, they could also pay a state corporation tax rate on top of that. So if your company is registered in, say, Wyoming, where there's no state corporation tax, then on $100,000 of profit, 21% on $1 million. The same if you're C-Corp in a state that sits kind of in the middle like Florida, then on $100,000, your overall corporate tax rate is going to be 26.5. And if your C-Corp's in a state like Minnesota, then on 100,000 and $1 million, your overall corporate tax rate is going to be about 30.8%. The US also has the popular limited liability company, or LLC. Now, generally, these are treated as pass-through vehicles. What that means is profits of the LLC are not treated with corporation tax. They are passed to the owner as the owner's income. The owner then pays personal income tax on those profits. Now, I really want to keep this to a baseline and get to our 4 other lesser known countries. So if you want to know more about the US and UK incorporation options, especially beneficial US incorporation options, I've made a video dedicated to that, which you'll be able to find up here. So to this point, it is kind of similar between the UK and US from April 2023 as a very rough average here. Opening your company in the US or UK at $100,000 company profit and at a company profit of $1 million a year. So what if you incorporate elsewhere? Now, I've put this in order of personal preference, saving the best for last, but in 4th place. Now, let's talk about Cyprus. Cyprus is not just beaches and tourism. From a business angle, it's actually interesting. Corporate tax is a flat 12.5%. Flat means if your company makes $100,000 or 1 million, same tax rate. Now, the important part people forget. After your company pays tax, what happens when you move the money to yourself? In many countries, withholding tax will quietly destroy the benefit. But in Cyprus, if you're a non-resident, there's no withholding tax on dividends, interest, or royalties. So realistically, Cyprus works well if you want simple structure and predictable tax. Setup cost is around $2,000 and yearly running costs depend on what services you need. Nominees, accountants, things like that. Now let's talk about Estonia because this one is different. Estonia doesn't tax company profits until you take the money out. So if your company makes $100,000 and you leave it inside the business, zero tax. You only pay tax when you distribute profits to yourself. That tax is usually 20%, but if you pay yourself regularly, it can drop to 14%. There can be a small withholding tax depending depending on where you live. Everything is online. You apply for e-residency and you can run the whole company remotely. Setup is under $1,000 and yearly costs are very low. If you're building and reinvesting, Estonia is very attractive. Next is Georgia. Georgia is ranked top 10 globally for ease of doing business, and yes, the tax system is friendly. Just like Estonia, retained earnings are taxed at 0%. You only pay tax when money leaves the company. There's a normal setup option, and there's also something called a free industrial zone. If you're inside that zone, even distributed profits can be taxed at 0%. But it only makes sense if you're making serious money because the yearly fees are higher. One big bonus: if you actually live in Georgia, foreign income is tax-free. Crypto, investments, capital gains, zero. That's why some people don't just incorporate there, they move there. Now, number 1 on this list, Isle of Man. This place is serious. Corporate tax, 0% dividend tax, 0% withholding tax, 0%. It's not part of the UK, but it's stable, respected, and well regulated. The downside, setup cost is higher, around $5,000 to $6,000 to get started. But once it's running, yearly costs are reasonable. Personal tax is also low. Capital gains are 0. Inheritance tax is 0. This is more for people who want long-term structure, not shortcuts. I'll put a comparison on screen showing $100,000 and $1 million in profit compared with the US and UK. Quick disclaimer, I am not a tax advisor. This is for education, not legal advice. If you live in any of these countries and I missed something, correct me in the comments. And if lower taxes sound good to you, like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. If you're watching this and you actually want to register a company, don't just Google random agents. On Roladel, we have verified sellers who already do company registrations in different countries. You can talk directly to them, compare prices, and choose what works for you.